All right. Welcome, guys. Welcome. We're actually on time, and technology looks like...
We are a minute early, sir.
Wow. I'm impressed. And the technology works. I think this is the first time technology's worked in the
Stop jinxing it. Stop jinxing it. Stop jinxing it.
All right.
I'm good luck.
All right.
Oh, you are a bunny.
I am a rabbit.
Oh,
There we go.
okay.
There we go.
Thank you. All right.
She's mad at you.
I know.
She's gonna beat you up later.
I gotta keep an eye on my back. All right, welcome, guys. I guess those of you guys that are in the back, you guys can come forward if you want.
They're
Stay where you're
afraid.
at. I know. I understand.
You put a bat on the table, and you're like, "Oh, please come forward."
On that night. All right, welcome to what we like to call Behind the Craft. This is also something we call Craft Your Fandom. And it's a look at how to approach making a costume and or prop and the steps involved in turning your imagination into reality.
Really?
Yeah.
Are we going with the schmarm?
We are. All right, let's just hit a button and see what happens here. I don't know.
You press the space bar.
Okay,
Space bar.
fine.
Space bar.
See, you jinxed a key.
I do hit it. Oh, space bar. Okay, so...
The thing is Keith works in IT.
Is there a... Are we supposed to be getting pictures of the panelists?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, then before we start, let's just go down the line and let people introduce themselves. We'll start with Abby, and just... There you go.
Hi. I'm Abby, cosplayer, make stuff. There's kids in the cosplay. Okay. Sorry, I'm a little brain dead. I've been at E3 all week, so I'm like, hi, what date is this? Where am I? I have been making costumes for a very long time in a galaxy far, far away. I like bringing characters to life, and I love this community, so that's why I'm here, and I'm happy to be married to that schmuck.
Really
My name's
wonderful,
Allie.
that.
My page is Crazy Callisto if you wanted to find my costumes. I've been cosplaying since about 2009, and I happen to live like 12 minutes from these people, so I get to hang out with all these guys all the time. So yeah, this is my first panel, so don't judge me too harshly.
Give her a hand for first panel.
My name's Ryan. The first con I ever did was '95, and that was back when WonderCon was in Oakland. So there was.
How many here were born after 95?
Someone's over 40. Excellent.
I think you were born after 95.
Yeah. Anyone want to take a guess how many people were wearing costumes?
5.
2.
Oh, well, don't include me. Well, don't include me. It was 4. There was 4 of us. So now, the numbers have changed dramatically. So fantastic.
And we also have now, is this your guys' first panel too?
Yeah, my name is Chris Johnson. This is my son Kyle Johnson. We're Chris and Kyle Cosplay on Facebook. This is our first panel. We've been cosplaying a little over 3 years. We're kind of local to the area. We live in Northern California, a little small town of Willows, California.
Oh.
And according to this, my name is Keith Zen, and Abby and I are also staff members of the Replica Prop Forum, which is also costuming, and I know Allie's on there, Ryan's on there, I think Chris and Kyle are on there. We've been fortunate. I've been doing this stuff for a long time, not as long as Ryan, I don't think, but a pretty long time. But we've been fortunate to meet people in this hobby, like Chris and Kyle, for example, who we actually met at, was it this convention 3 years ago?
3 years ago at Sacramento, this con.
Okay,
It's
all right.
our friend
our 3 and a half.
anniversary!
All right, so now that we're done talking about ourselves, we're going to basically just talk about project management for prop and costume making. So, but there's basic 4 steps in this. Watching it, inspiration, and this is the element where what inspires you to make that costume in the first place. And I'm going to kind of breeze through these things, and then people can talk and whatnot. The next step is researching it, and that's one of the most important steps. Things like Google and etc. Then, of course, the build phase, and that's equally as important. And finally, you get to own it, be it, have it, whatever your wording is. Let's see what's the next page.
This is the previous slides right there.
I work in IT, but I don't use PowerPoint. I'm just going to say that right now. All right, so what is your story? And one of the things I'm going to read here, and hopefully it's much bigger. Let's see here. Sorry, words, okay, yeah, there we go. All right, when when you build, you're telling a story. Every character has a story, and even if you say this is just the cool costume or prop, irrespective of its intended context, that piece alone still tells a story that will speak to you. When choosing that costume or prop, think about the story that your item will tell. What is it about the item that appeals to you, and how do you want it to strike those who see it? Is it the character or item itself, Superman, Batman, Thor's hammer? Is it the wow factor, big giant armored costume, or something that's like, super cool and metallic looking, whatever, racy? What story are you telling? If you keep that in mind when you're building your item, that's going to help you get to the end because you know where you're going with it. All right, so that's it. What's your story? So let's move along with the research phase. So we're going to talk real quick about what you guys use for your research things. Let's start with Allie.
A lot of Googling. So it depends on what kind of costume you're working on. So I know Ryan and I are both working on the Resistance pilots from Force Awakens, and so that is trying to get your hands on every single image you could possibly get. Now with something like Star Wars, you've got a lot of great fandoms behind it. You've got Rebel Legion, you've got the 501st, lots of different Star Wars costuming groups you can all kind of band together. I know on the Replica Prop Forum, which if you're ever going to start a costume, pretty much start with Google and Replica Prop Forum to kind of see what people are talking about, because everybody from all around the world is on there and can tell you kind of what they're looking at, what you're looking at. And we get really nerdy on there down to well, this seam is a ½ inch this way, so if you don't top stitch it, does it really count? So you can get people kind of collaborating that way. So mostly I start with reference images. So for Judy Hopps, try and find as many stills as you can. I mean, Disney Animation is really great at putting out a bunch of concept art. So if you can get your hands on concept art, high-res images, that's what you want to start to look for before you can plan anything, is get as many pictures from every single angle you can. With the Star Wars costumes, they have costume exhibits where they tour the costumes. So if they're local to you, go to those. If they put the costume on the right way.
That has happened.
That happened at Disneyland, actually. They put them on the wrong way. That's when you know you've gone too far in life, when you're correcting Disneyland. You go, that's not the way that vest goes on. They put one of the Rebel pilots from the original trilogy in Star Wars on backwards.
And they also,
The flak vest was on backwards.
and also they did that to a Stormtrooper piece. They put the belt on upside down.
Yeah, so that's when you know you've kind of gone down the crazy train when you're correcting it. But anyway, we're the kind of people you'll see at those costume exhibits with their phones. Going in there
Sometimes
and
we bring a ruler, so we have we can get scale.
True story. I went up to Seattle, and they have the museum up there, and they had an entire Star Wars exhibit going on. I was the girl tripping off every single alarm in the Star Wars exhibit because I kept leaning too far over to get the detailed shot of Padme's dress. And finally the curator came in and they're like, okay, listen, we understand. We're just going to let you do this, but please stop setting off the alarm. I'm like, okay.
I just did it one more time.
One of the things about, what was I going to say about research stuff? Oh man, I had a train of thought. Oh well, it wasn't.
Train
has left the station.
Yeah, okay, we'll just get past that.
Go to Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan?
Nowadays the resources are amazing. Usually, first you got to have your buy-in. I want to do this costume, and I'll do a corollary. Do you have to look like the person in the costume? Do you? Raise your hands. Do you? No. The answer is no. Hell no. You don't have to look at all like the person. You don't have to be the size of the person. It's whatever. If you don't have buy-in, what's the point? You don't relegate yourself to costumes that you just happen to look like. The buy-in is what you love, what your fandom is, what your passion is, whatever license, whatever franchise that inspires you. Pick it. Pick a costume that you want to do. You don't have to look like the character. That's not important. But as far as harvesting, if you're going to do something, first thing to do is make a file on your hard drive and just start stealing every image that's not nailed down.
Pinterest.
Yeah, Pinterest is good. Like they said, a lot of these costumes go on display. A lot of times, for the Resistance pilot, somebody went after hours and put a tape measure in front of all the pockets and seams, and they,
Bless them.
Yeah, thank goodness for that. But there's always a wealth of information. Another thing is a lot of these, costume designers are like unsung heroes. They're now approachable. They all have, They're readily, you can contact them and they'll be thrilled to talk back to you. You know, you'll be like, hey, what was that fabric trim? And they'll be like, oh, yeah, we got that down on Lancashire Boulevard in LA, and you can probably call them and they might still have a whole roll of it. There was 500 yards left last time I was there. Well, okay, thanks, pal, that's great. So, I mean, there's tons of resources, and now, communication-wise, you can get a hold of a lot of people if you want to just get information or harvest images.
The thing that I was thinking about that I forgot now I remember is that almost anything you want to make or might want to make, there's a good chance somebody's done it already. And the beauty of that, though, is you can oftentimes find out, well, how to go for them, or how did they do something, or what failures did they have, what mistakes. And that helps you avoid those things for yourself. But it also might show you that you're like, oh, I like what they did here, but I think maybe I'm going to try this. So there's so much out there, and you want to do all your homework up front. Now, Chris and Kyle down there, they have a very unique process of how they build stuff. But now, how do you guys approach your research? Because most of your designs are kind of unique to your own.
And Keith, you're absolutely right.
I know, I'm not good.
There's been a lot of costumes that have really been made. So our research, does start with the concept art that's out there. And again, Googling, we started out looking at DeviantArt, which is a really great website. There's a lot of artists, and they're just throwing up their images. And do peruse through there. You get some great ideas. Pick and choose. Our base uniform underneath is a pajama pattern. It's simplicity is easy, so pajama pattern.
You guys are in pajamas.
We're wearing pajamas, man. They look pretty sleek too, if you look around. You can.
They wear them at home.
You can work with them once you get your ideas. Our next step after we get an idea is to go research material. And again, I say we live in Northern California, Willows, California. We don't have fabric stores in our town that we live, so we go to Chico, which is the largest community next to us. And the stores are really limited, so it's that hunt and choose for material. Sometimes there's some great pieces out there, and that lends to what our next costume is going to be. So I recently came across some really neat kind of mesh weaved green material, and I'm going to do kind of a very modern looking goblin just to terrorize all the Spider-Man cosplayers out there.
So that goes back to the very first thing, which was inspiration.
Yeah.
Your inspiration may actually come from a piece that you just happen to randomly find. You're like, oh, what can I build around this? So there you go. Other things about research and stuff like that, utilizing known items. So we can take screenshots, we can take stills, we can go and take measurements and stuff. But we don't always have access to the actual stuff, right? So take my Walking Dead Negan jacket, for example. This is a prototype, so it's still a work in progress. But we started with some basic snaps, and I knew that these were like number 20 snaps. So knowing that these are number 20 snaps, you know what size they are. And you can use that to then get a rough idea of what some of the other sizes are going to be, how thick the belt might be, or how the belt loops, or a particular seam, or something like that. So that, again, can help you get a rough idea of what you want your item to look like.
That's actually how people started to figure out how big the chest boxes were for the resistance pilots, is based on how tall the actor is. Like, we know he's like 5'11".
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
So we're like, okay, so if he's this tall, this has space. They really nerded out on it. But you can take, like Keith is saying, like a reference item that you know how big that item is, and then it can give you the scale. If you really want to get into the perfect dimensions of something.
Crazy town.
Yeah, kind of like what Ryan was saying, you don't have to look like the person, and you kind of have to decide, like, how close do you want to be? Is it important to you to be screen accurate, or is close enough good enough for you? I have some that I'm like, close enough. I mean, I'm not going to actually be a bunny, so it's like, I can get close enough at the end of the day. So knowing the size of something will help you with the whole costume.
Yeah, and there's no right or wrong, really. I mean, you have something that's what we call screen accurate, which is accurate if you're basing it off a television or a movie or something like that, accurate to what you see on screen. There's what they call hero accurate, which is actually you have access to the actual hero prop. And that may be different than screen accurate, because keep in mind that when lighting hits and and the cameras get certain angles, things will get distorted. So what you see on screen may not actually be what the hero item actually looks like. And then there's close enough.
Explain the hero item
Oh,
versus a
yeah.
normal prop.
So a hero item versus normal. Here's a baseball bat. We'll call this Lucille. And this is just sort of screen accurate. We know it's a baseball bat, so we can get into size. So sorry. But hero means it's the actual physical prop that was used. So if this was a hero prop, this would be the bat that Jeffrey Dean Morgan used in a specific scene. So we would know that one would have a certain amount of grime or whatever on it. Rick Grimes. Yeah.
What kind of spoilers out there?
All right, so we're moving along. As you're doing your research, you're also going to want to start thinking about processes and techniques. It's in there. I don't know what this order is. I'm going with the flow here. You're going to think about techniques, and there's a lot of possible techniques out there. This is just an example of a few. Foam crafting, thermoplastics, and we won't spend a lot of time. We can answer questions about those afterwards. Let's see what's next. 3D milling, 3D printing, big stuff. These days, if you have access to like a 3D program for doing 3D modeling, you can take that and you can send it out to like Shapeways, and they'll print out your item for you if you don't own a 3D printer. Milling, Preppercura, which is paper folding.
And so like a lot of these really specific ways of doing all these props, like maybe Keith and Abby are like really good at all these things, and like you sculpt things, but like for me, like I don't have a 3D printer. I can't handle that software at all. I'm never gonna do that. Just now learning how to make basic molds. You can find people who are like, yeah, I really rock the 3D printer. I have it. This is my business. You tell me what you want and I will custom print this for you. So Etsy is a great place for that. The RPF, any other like costume.
You
form.
can skill swap too. Like
Yes,
you might
skill
have a very generous friend that's got the 3D modeling skills and a 3D printer, but guess what? Couldn't sew a throw pillow to save their life. So a lot of times you could do a skill swap. Like I do a lot of fiberglass and vacuum forming. That's messy stuff, and so you can always like swap goodies and things like that. That's the beauty. Like once you start building stuff, you meet a whole talented group of people, and a lot of times skill sets you can you just monetize them and start swapping.
Abby made a bunch of curtains in exchange for some 3D printed parts.
So we're even lower budget than that. I bought a red iron Spidey mask at Target for $11. I added.
You should have got the Chewbacca one. I hear that one's
What's
going.
that? I wish, but I didn't. They didn't wear it out of time. I had to, because it's made for a little kid, I had to extend it about an inch. So there's foam, and then I fiberglassed over the top. I had to drill my own breathing holes. I had to recut the eyes out for my mask, and then the back part is actually, there's 3 slots to, for elastic piece to put on for the head, and then I did it like a baseball cap in the back, and then I stretched my material over it. So, I constructed my own face shield mask, and there was no access to a 3D printer, and the expense of buying like the Spider-Man mask was a little bit too much for me, so I did this for like $20.
You can make almost anything out of random stuff you find in your house. I get
Garbage.
really creative at 3 a.m.
You never know what you can make out of something. So you can be in the toy aisle, like seeing a Spider-Man mask, like, oh my gosh, and then the checker's like, you have a kid? No, that's for me.
We have a light in his Spawn's mask for the eyes that turn green. It's a light out of a hunting hat, and we were in Walmart, and it's a light that hunters use, and we just turned it on and it turned green, and it was like, the biggest light bulb went off in our heads. We're like, oh my gosh! This is like holding it up to our face. Will it work? Will it work? It's like, yeah, take it home. And we cannibalized the hat and pulled the wiring out and put it in, and it works great.
So you never know what you're going to use for costume. For example, the light, it's like a hat. Who's going to use the hat light for Spawn?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, and you can do, cardboard, garbage. I mean, when I talk about garbage, like old milk cartons or plastic bottles or you name it, you can resource, there's 10 different ways to make the same thing.
Really cool to use toilet paper. I know you guys are gonna be like, what? You squish it up and you kind of like Mod Podge it and you stick it to stuff, and it looks. You can make it look like dirt. You can make it look like blood. You can make it look like dead skin. Like toilet paper. Easiest thing ever. Dollar store. Yes.
And in a pinch, if you run out.
Oh, in a pinch? Sorry.
Alrighty then.
about plastics?
Yeah, we're living in a world though that there's so much awesome technology out there now. Not only technology, but resources and materials. Foam, craft foam, in particular, floor mats are like the go-to thing these days for making almost anything. Years ago, we never would have dreamed of it, but somebody somewhere along the line was like, you know what? This is what
I
we've
can
been doing.
heat this up.
Yeah.
I can shape this. It takes paint. It's done.
Yeah, and it's cheap. And so there's lots of cool stuff out there. Thermoplastics. There are people making stuff for us these days. I mean, literally, like all these what are the Adreno sound kits and light kits.
Yeah.
You know, there's stuff that's being made so we can then build other stuff with it. It's really cool.
Yeah, when it comes to like electronics and other things, I mean, costuming now, I mean, there's a huge market. There's a lot of materials specifically geared for fabricating your own stuff. You know, some are reasonable, some are not. Has anyone ever used like Warbler or, I mean, that's a big one. I mean, a lot of the organic type armors are being done with that now, and it's stretched over foam, and it's gorgeous looking once you give it the right application of paint. And that's the other thing, paint hides
So much.
everything. I mean, if you go and look at painting techniques, you can make plastic look like metal, wood, you can make plastic look like plastic. But I mean, in these things, usually it's not a matter of money, it's a matter of time. How much time you're willing to sit there, you know, hunched over it, sort of watching a TV show. And, you know, if you're willing to just put a lot of sweat equity into it, you can make really low budget materials look amazing.
A good paint job can hide many an error.
Oh, and while we're talking about paint real quick, there's a great ebook out there by Vulpin Props, Harrison Cricks. One of the best $5 you'll spend on every paint technique you can imagine. It's a great book. But
$5.
Ryan mentioned time. How much time do you want to spend? This is your typical project management. It's like whatever they call this thing, project planning. It's fast, it's good, it's cheap, but you only get to pick two. So when you're thinking about building and putting your costume together, you need to figure out which ones you want to do, because that's going to determine the direction you're going. Because like I said, you only get to pick two. I've never seen a variation on that.
No, you can't do all three.
So that's just something to keep in mind.
One thing to add about costumes, they're never comfortable, so don't expect that. Like right now, I'm with 20 pounds of fabric right now, so I'm like sweating up a storm.
Abby's comfortable
I'm
with that.
pretty comfortable. Yeah. I'm sweating profusely under this, but I'm comfortable.
This project planning chart, really important. When you're thinking about your timelines, what are you building and what do you want it for? Is it for convention? Is it for a contest? Is it for Halloween or whatever? And that gives you an idea of, if you have a timeline, then you gotta then go backwards. So I have a timeline, how much time do I have?
And pat it.
And
pat
then
it,
pat it.
pat it.
But that then plays into your budget. So if you have a little bit of time and a little bit of money, you may not get the quality of what you want. So that's kind of how that plays into it. We storyboard. Abby does anyway.
So this is my OCD anal retentiveness. I do this with every costume that I work on. I pick an image that kind of represents the character or whatever I'm doing. I print it out and I literally draw all over it. And this is the pretty version, like this is the high level pretty version. But I write everything down what I will need for this costume, from underwear, socks, shoes, wig, everything I will need. I put it on a list. I point it out. I tell myself. And then from those items I go, okay, if she has leaves on this, I need to sculpt those leaves. So I get an idea of what materials I need for that. I itemize everything. And you don't have to get as nutty as I do, but for me, it helps me not miss a step. It helps me kind of be aware of what I'm going to spend as far as time and money, so that going in, I don't get halfway through and start crying my eyes out because I don't have time, I don't have money, and I'm all done. So that's something, it can help. So that is something I would definitely recommend, have a kind of a storyboard, just like you would if you were putting on a production.
You want to know what your budget is. That is going to determine the direction you're going to go in whatever you're doing. If you have, $50 to work with, then you're going to have to plan within $50. Don't go into it blind though, because I can tell you, for the number of half-finished projects I have at home, that if you get into it and you go into it blind and you run out of money, all right, I guess I'll put that over there for a while. So, anybody here run out of money on their projects?
I have.
Yeah.
It's more like,
Anybody here max out their credit card to finish their project?
More like I chose to live off of ramen for a month instead, and I wanted to finish the costume. But there's definitely some where for whatever reason, you end up abandoning them, you run out of time and you couldn't make it, so you're like, screw it.
Yeah. Or you're just not happy with where it is. You're like, this looks like garbage.
Yeah, because I don't make a nice, pretty storyboard like Abby does, which I should. I've seen at her house. It gets a little bit of like a beautiful mind in the beginning. Where she's just like scribbled notes, and she's in the corner like doing one of these too. Like she's not kidding.
Oh, she's not. Actually, she's not.
I literally live 15 minutes away. It gets scary. Scary cute. So I'll make a list instead of like a storyboard, but like, definitely a list. Like, okay, Judy Hopps, I need a vest. So what do I need to do? I have to pattern the vest, so I'm going to need this, and then what kind of material. So you start to write that out, and you start to write out your cost. And then that's when it got tricky. Do you remember when there was that big fashion where people were like, the actual cost of cosplay, and started telling you how much their costumes cost? I started totaling those up. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that at the end of the day. No. Although we have a friend, Cassandra, who she makes cosplay on a budget. It's obnoxious because she'll come to Dragon Con and be like, I made this for $10, and it literally looks something way better than what I've spent like way more money on. So I mean, there are absolutely ways to make things for less money, depending on what your budget and time is. Like with the Resistance pilots, that is not a cheap costume. Don't let anybody tell you it is, because they are full of lies. The one tube alone is like $70 from Germany. Don't go
If
for it.
you go screen accurate.
If you go screen accurate. So like, for instance, the belt. So there's this very specific belt with all this rigging and these special pieces. And so like my boyfriend made the vest for me because he specializes in body armor. And we're like, okay, so we could make this. How much time would I have to put into this to make this? There's a guy on, where's Rick Ponty on? Is he on? He's probably on Rebel Legion. He's on all the boards. Ponty works. He makes a lot of props. So there's this group on Facebook for people making the Resistance pilots costumes, so we can all collaborate with each other. Don't underestimate Facebook. So we all get on there and kind of talk about it. And he already figured out the belt. He has contacts and figured out like this screen accurate item and that. And he's like, okay, belt. I think it's like $260. And I was like, I know. Don't just Lord, I work a lot.
Yeah.
And so we're like, okay, how much time would we have to put into this? How many hours? How much money do we think our time is worth for us to source all this and do that? And it was like, is it cheaper in the long run for time and materials to just buy it from somebody who already has it in the first place? But again, that's a very expensive route to go.
Yeah.
But it also brings up, like, short segue is, if somebody has done something, you don't always have to reinvent the wheel. Mm-hmm. If you know somebody who has a prop that is perfect, why would you spend $300 in materials to just cry? I'm sorry, I cry a lot when I cosplay. You guys haven't heard about that. Or would you go and help someone in the community this is part of their business, this is part of who they are, and this is going to help grow our community? And I've kind of turned into another segue, sorry. I actually collect props from different prop makers that are known for making things, because it's kind of like, you know how some ladies are with handbags, like, I have to have a good Vinci, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I've got to have a Vulcan energy sword. So, anyway.
So now we jump into the build it phase, and obviously, where to start, what to use, management. We're not going to teach you how to build. We're still just kind of rolling along here, but important stuff, the most important. Talk about the build process.
Chris and Kyle talk about the build process.
All right, fine. Well, that's part of the build process.
A big thing that we do is, because we're material driven, fabric material driven on our costumes, is use coupons and purchase wisely, really wisely. So I use sketches too. I draw things out. So Miss Marvel over there is Cher. Cher's my supervisor. And
He does a great job. Please don't fire him.
so when I was doing her Miss Marvel, I drew things out, and you study it, and when you use your materials a little bit more, you get an idea of exactly how much material you're going to need. Do use the coupons with Joann's or Hancock or whoever. It helps. It helps quite a bit. Draw stuff out. We, like everybody else, you overbuy sometimes and you overspend. A great example for us was we built a pyro costume for Kyle, and we used 2 propane canisters in the bank, and for the backpack, and they're the little camp ones. And it was a total waste of a resource. All we wanted was the empty containers. So we literally had to start up a camp stove on it and burn the tanks down. And that took a long time. So then we built the pack, and it was too heavy.
Yeah.
Oh, there's no such
we
thing as
didn't
too heavy
really
a pack.
think- No, because like we put the clamps like too low on the shoulder, so I was
Oh.
like literally leaning on like a 45-degree angle down the con, so like breaking my back literally. So yeah, having propane tanks and little vents on it.
cosplayer if you can't handle
That is very true.
That's what I was trying to coach him, but it wasn't working.
Yeah, as I'm like walking like this whole time, like Dad, stop.
That's actually me and my Master Chief.
Shut up, you like it!
We basically had to throw that pack away and start over.
We forgot to add a pyro pack. Mistake on my part. We had these little tubes, and he picks up these little like half-inch tubes. I'm like, nah, I want the big boy tube. So I get these like 3-inch tubes for my little pipes, and so that added like a couple pounds to it. So like,
It was misjudgment.
be smart, don't be dumb like me.
Yeah. So you do a little research. Weight is a big thing to take it, but money management, definitely it comes into play. Use coupons, as best you can, and look for sales and stuff. So.
Absolutely, that's all amazing. That's part of your research too, and it kind of does dive into the build it phase. We talk about tools a bit, and at this table, if you could have one tool, you get to pick what it is. Go ahead, guys, start.
Sewing machine.
Probably just a good old tile knife, just a snap blade knife.
Dremel.
The internet.
I gotta go to Dremel.
Fiberglass too for the helmet because I'm not good with foam, so we pretty much had like a round circle the whole time, and we just fiberglass and sand the heck out of it just to make that form. So fiberglass is my tools.
If you're not allergic to it.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah, no kidding. I smelled like fiberglass for a whole week on this helmet.
Your son's burned more brain cells working on. But that brings us to the important thing. Speaking of brain cells, safety first, folks. And, they say that it's not really a completed costume or prop until you bleed on it.
Yep.
Yep.
But we all have stories, and obviously respirators is a good example of Bondo. Safety glasses. Let's talk about Allie here for a moment.
So my first Dragon Con, I decided to make a female Thor costume based on my own design, and so I'm actually at their house, and I was building this shoulder piece that would have the cloak attached to it and is all snazzy, and I had just sewn, while I was working on it, I was half done, sewing the cloak onto these big shoulder pads that had like this big giant circle of Warbler. It's hard. And
Disclaimer, we're at 0 hour here, like before we leave for Dragon Con.
it's like a week, maybe.
No,
maybe.
it was less
it was
than
like
that.
2 days.
Oh, you're right, because I was still. End of story, we'll tell you why. So I go to flip it onto my head like that, and the Warbler smacks me right in the eye, and I actually end up ripping my cornea. I scratched my cornea at their house. And I gotta say, I took it like a boss though, because Abby brought an ice pack and put it on my face, and I'm sitting there with the scratched cornea, finishing sewing Thor right there.
So there's this picture of Allie, and she's got this face. This is her face. She's like, and I had given her an ice pack, like it was an Optimus Prime ice pack, but I had also given her I keep a cool mask in my freezer for when I get migraines, and I'd given her that, so she had taken the cool mask, folded it in half, and wrapped it around her head, so she was like Pirate Optimus Prime.
She's like a character from 300.
Allie, are you okay? We should go to the ER or the doctor. I got this!
We have no time! Dragon Con is coming!
Now, keep in mind that earlier that day, we have steps in the back of our house that go down to our yard, right? And there's cement steps. And of course, to do painting, we run up and down these steps, because we have flat surfaces down below. So she's running back up the steps.
Not me, her.
Yeah. Boom, boom. What happened? I tripped. So she's got a now banged up knee, eye patch. She's walking with a limp.
Lesson, their house is a danger trap. Don't let your children go there. You will die. I also found a black widow at your house.
That's only one of 12.
So my knee pads for Judy Hopps here. So these started out as regular sports pads, and then they were this big, and I dremeled them down. So I'm sitting out there outside, dremeling things down with no glasses on, mind you. And yes, the flecks of this hard plastic are flying in my face, and they weren't hitting my eyes, so I wasn't really worried until one of them hit me right here, and I was like, maybe I should put on some safety glasses. That's probably the big one for me, is the damn safety glasses. It's like, oh, I don't need safety material. I don't need this. No, you need safety material. I can't count the number of times I've melted my fingerprints off while using Warbler.
Yep.
Just because I'm like, I don't need this. I don't have time for that. Yeah, safety.
Hot glue burns.
Yeah.
Yep.
Struggle's real.
I don't even, I used to wear, I used to just wear safety glasses, but I was pressed for time and I was out of cutting discs and I found a stack from Harbor Freight. Yeah, I know, it's my own fault. But they were the big ones for the air cutters, so they're the big ones. And I had to get some cutting done, so I'm like, oh, I'll just use this. Yeah, well, the damn thing exploded, so I took a shot to the teeth. So now I wear a cool face mask. Plus, it just looks neat.
Nothing quite like, Jason.
Yeah.
From Friday the 13th, making props. All right, so safety, remember. Oh, you guys have accident stories? Okay.
Who doesn't?
Again,
If you
I-
cosplay, you have accident stories.
My go-to was a sewing machine, so we all know my tie-in. My tie-in is pins, and yes, every cosplay that we've built has got my blood on it. Sorry, Cher, it's in there too. Yeah, the...
You can strip the DNA and make
Yeah,
another one if you
exactly.
need to, and he'll work for free, I'm just saying.
And yes, but safety first. I mean, you're going to stick yourself with a pin. You're going to do the hot glue gun. You're going to the Dremel disc. We've done that too. We've done the other drumming with the sand in face. You do get excited and you just want to progress with your costume, but safety first, guys.
Just how many times, just curious, did you paint yourself with that costume alone? Because I remember like coming home from school once and like band-aids all over your arms and like, what's wrong? Did you get in a fight or something? Like, no, cosplay.
So
It's like,
Your mom.
The side of the flag, it had to be pinned and laid out as I attached the mesh piece. So the pins were like flopping back. So I'm running this stitch to attach the mesh, and they would catch me every time. And it's like, But yes, I made the girl face before too.
Yeah. So my bad thing is I'm pretty good about safety glasses and safety gloves, mostly because I don't want to ruin my manicure. You spend $50 on something. You put toes and your feet together. You're like, girls got me. You spend money on that crap. You don't want to waste it.
And she has ruined it multiple times, to be fair.
What?
Remember you were building a costume at the 11th hour, and your new nails, and then you looked, you're like, oh, they're all gone.
Yeah, I totally broke all my nails off. I was so mad. Oh, I was so mad. Anyways, my problem is I don't wear a ventilator. Or
Respirator?
a respirator. Whatever. Those things, you shove them on your face. Not the ones that... No, that one, whatever. Gas mask, I don't know. I don't wear them. I'm bad about that because I don't like it because I sweat and then my face itches. But I also have really bad allergies and asthma. So this one time at band camp, we were supposed to be going down to LA for a photo shoot, and I was supposed to be Poison Ivy in the photo shoot, and I wanted to finish my new Poison Ivy. I had to have my new Poison Ivy finished, and I was using latex and silicone. And if you've ever worked with silicone will not glue to anything really. So you have to use silicone caulk. And so I'm in our studio garage area with all the doors closed because it's like 3 a.m. and I'm not gonna like wake up my neighbors and get them angry at me. And then I realize I'm doing all this glue stuff and I'm just gluing and then the room's spinning and there's really magical colors. And Keith comes out, he opens the door, he's like, whoa, what happened? I'm like, hi.
What did you have?
Shut up. Anyways, but wear your masks, make sure you have a well-ventilated area. Do not work with materials that will cause you to,
Bondo and fiberglass.
Oh, I love Bondo and fiberglass. Smells so good.
And so we're getting short on time, so I'm going to show these slides, and then we're going to let you guys...
Sure, in time. We got to 2:30.
No, actually, we have till 2:15.
Okay.
Trial and error is one thing, and it's really basic, common sense stuff. I'll let you guys each have like two words for trial and error. You talked about pinning yourself, but
Accept the failure.
all right.
Yeah. 2 words?
Hey, give me
I just say never first. But you have to look at what someone else did first.
failures equal new opportunities. Like for example,
look at that.
like for our spawn helmet, the little white parts, we were gonna lay them down.
I'm
We were gonna lay them down flat, but then we didn't glue that part first. We're like, oh, we messed up, we gotta redo it. But then like, that kind of looks kind of cool sticking up. We're like, we're gonna add on to it. So failures can equal to new opportunities.
I say ask for help because like you're not going to be an expert on every single thing that you do. You're not going to be an expert on like prop making and sewing and patterning and all this. Like somebody out there probably has a skill that you don't have. It's okay to ask for help and you don't have to make every single thing on you yourself. Yeah.
when you're sewing, use crappy fabric before you cut into your really expensive fabric that you can't find anymore. And buy doubles. Always buy doubles, especially if it's a known item. So say it's an item that somebody wore in a show and you know it's, you know, this type of t-shirt from this store and you can buy like 5 of them. Buy those 5. Buy them and put them away, because I've had so many costume pieces that I've had perfect pieces for, and then I go to replace them or they rip and I can't do it anymore because those pieces do not exist and eBay sucks.
I have two things. One's toolkit. If you're going to have a costume, for example, or even if you're bringing a prop and you're doing something at a convention, have some form of a toolkit. So this way, if something breaks, you can fix it. And the other thing is have a backup plan. Because things always tend to fail, so as long as you have a backup plan in the works, then you kind of anticipate that something's not going to work. I'm going to go ahead and do it this way instead. Like crazy glue. All right, let's go ahead and shoot to questions. Finishing touches, we kind of talked about painting and all that jazz already. Be it, and I'm going to leave that on the resources. Questions from you guys? Anybody here? And go. Up.
You ever had a costume that fell apart when you first wore it?
Half of them.
Today.
Where? Yeah.
At Star Wars Celebration 6, I was doing some Jedi Knight armor, and I thought it would be fine. I thought I had rigged it fine. Well, a couple of the straps started flying off, and next thing you know, my codpiece is like falling down to my knees, and it was terribly embarrassing.
I have the pictures. They're $5 if anybody would like one.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, when you're doing something elaborate like with armor or multiple like pieces with straps and buckles, I don't do a lot of armor stuff anymore, but when I did, I would literally do a trial run where I'd put it on and just wear it around the house for a couple hours, you know, because that cool guy, that's what I do. But you'll find out like what you'll find out is 20 minutes, you're like, oh, that's pinching my kneecap. And an hour later, you're like, oh, my forearm's cramping up. You find out where all your pinch points and all the like little boogers that are going to make you miserable. You know, it's good to do a dry run at home.
If you guys want this, like I just noticed a couple people taking a photo of this slide, we actually have cards at our booth with all of these resources on them. So you come by our booth number 303 and you can pick up a card and, you know, you can have it.
And they're absolutely free.
Like with the duplicates and planning ahead of time, it's like if you're making something, make duplicates. So when I was making, so I did Thranduil's robe from The Hobbit, and I made his brooch instead of just buying one online because I didn't want to wait for it to come from China, even though it only been $5. Anyway, I made it and it broke within 5 minutes of putting it on, and I'm already at the convention, going down to the photo shoot, and it breaks off. And so it's like really jankily glued together. That's something that didn't take me too much time to make. Should have made a duplicate. And just always have glue with you at all times because things will break always. But yeah, if you have time and don't finish it at 2 a.m. that day, try it on at home.
Another question?
Yeah, I work with, I make costumes myself. Work with mostly EVA foam. So he was head, he's my man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But my biggest problem, he recommends barge contact cement.
Yeah.
That's just vile though.
Works fantastic and I love it, but it's like $50 for a little jar of it. Anyways. Is that what you guys use? What do you guys use for glue?
We usually use barge, and we get it from Amazon.
We get the big one, like it's
Yeah.
worth it. You get the big one.
The monster size, and it's still expensive, but we have Amazon Prime. Oh, thank God. If you don't have Prime, think
Get
about
it.
it. It's awesome, especially if you need something last minute, 2 days, can't
Or
beat
sent
that.
to your hotel. They will send it to your hotel. So like I've had so many costume pieces where I'm like, oh, I don't need that. I'm like, oh crap, I don't. Okay, TMI. I need this particular underwear to wear this with this costume, or everybody's gonna see that I wear Hanes Her Way instead of not that. So I Amazon Prime some underwear to to Dragon Con because I was like, I'm fine, nobody can see my underwear. Prime.
And like
Yeah.
with buying things online, like if it's something you know you're going to make a lot of, like with barge, you know you're going to use it, buy in bulk. You can usually get discounts. Google coupons for everything. Even if I'm just buying like a t-shirt or Hot Topic or whatever, I Google coupons to see if I can find it. There's a great site, bless them, called Retail Me Not, and they're just an amalgamation of like every kind of coupon you could ever find, and you can try the different codes to see if you can find a discount. If you're ordering like wholesale because you want like, you know you're going to make like poop ton of it, like, and you're gonna get a huge order, you can try contacting them and say like, hey, do you do wholesale? Like, here's how much I need. They might offer you a discount if you're ordering that much of it. Going on group buys as well.
Yep.
Like for a lot of the stuff for the resistance pilots, to get one might be a lot, but if you order like 50 of them, that might be less. So get in on
Yeah.
group buys if you can.
And that's true with molding and casting materials. Sometimes, if you're buying, silicone or something like that, that's just not cheap. But if you have other friends or other people that are molding or casting something up, when you buy in larger quantities, as you scale up, the per unit cost drops dramatically.
We did that like when we were doing like head cast.
Absolutely,
remember?
yeah.
We bought a bunch of plaster.
You have
and
prop
stuff.
parties.
Yep.
You have prop parties where you're like, everybody, okay, bring your $20. We're all going to buy all this prop stuff, and we're going to work on it together.
And then we usually have a barbecue.
Yeah.
All right, well, we got room for one more question, and then after that, you guys can come down to our booth. If you have more questions, feel free, but go ahead.
What would you recommend for a person to do like a color change for a body, full top body, like red skin, like cowboy?
Ugh.
So you want body paint?
Yep.
Something that will last all day.
Okay.
All right.
So when you're doing body paint, you have to consider like, do you want it to be, how expensive do you want it to be? How long do you want it to last? And is it okay if it rubs off on your clothes? So I did Barit from Guardians of the Galaxy at Dragon Con. So she's the hot pink girl in the very beginning. She's in it for like 30 seconds because my boyfriend is doing Star-Lord. So I used an alcohol-based paint. It's from a company called Real Creations, yeah, REEL. And so I was like, well, because they were recommended to me. And so I actually emailed them because I wanted to get a sample of the paint. I wasn't sure what color. And they were like, oh, actually, we know exactly what character you're talking about. Let us rewatch the movie. And they told me like exactly what character I wanted. They asked me how many times did I want to wear this costume? Did I need to do a test first? So they told me exactly everything I need. Those types of companies are very high touch because they don't do like, nickel and dime transactions all the time. They'll be very helpful with you. So if you do an alcohol-based paint, it's not going to rub off. Like, I jumped in the pool in that body paint, and it did not come off. I like to freak out my friends on that and came up and gave them hugs while I was bright pink, and they thought it was going to ruin their costumes, and it didn't. But it was a bologna sandwich and a half to get off. They give you this, I know there's children, so they give you this special remover that's supposed to take it off. It doesn't. I'll sit there in the shower scrubbing for like an hour and a half with that remover and special soaps. So, like, keep that in mind. If you want to paint yourself, you can do it, and it'll last all day, alcohol-based paint, but have fun taking it off.
But it'll look awesome.
I helped scrub, so I know her pain. There's also water-based. I don't like alcohol-based makeups because I don't like the way it makes me feel. I have done so much body paint. First thing, prep. Make sure that you are well exfoliated. If you are very hairy, wax, or you can actually put. Don't you laugh at
No,
me.
I shaved my entire body.
You can put down a
Ryan's
thing
laughing
that'll
because he's very
mat
hairy.
your hair down to a prep spray, and then you can you can test with different sponges and stuff. Do a sealant, so you want to be sealed into it, and just be aware of where your movements are, where your wear points are. It all depends on your comfortability. If you are going to go the alcohol-based route, go to Trader Joe's and get a big jar of coconut oil. And that's how you get it off. You get like we didn't have it. I'm sorry, I thought it was hilarious. You were just sitting there scrubbing. And you can take that and you can rub it in. You rub it into your skin and then you wipe it off. It does take a lot longer, and you are going to need alcohol, like actual rubbing alcohol, in order to get the other spots off. But like in places like your face where you cannot put rubbing alcohol, nor should you, the coconut oil will help and it'll moisturize your skin.
Okay.
Real quick on that. So we have a friend, Shay Standifer. She's another cosplayer. She does a lot of body paint. She wrote a really good write-up on her Facebook page, Shay Standifer, and she lists like all the different types of body paints and why one over the other. Check that out.
All right, so we're essentially out of time. Again, we're at 3:03. So if you have more questions or want to get those postcards, you can come down. Also, we'll probably hover outside for a few minutes if you have additional questions. Thank you guys all for coming. Thank you guys for all your awesome answers. And hey, have fun for time.
Did you just apply that with like a sponge?
And airbrushes on?
Oh yeah?
Yeah, sure, you bet,
I
right?
wish I'd done airbrush, but it was just a giant fluffy brush.
Oh, it was?
Should we all stand? Is that the plan?
Yeah, up against that screen.